The presentation?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good, great, great. Okay, I'll go ahead. So it's always technology is always difficult, but we're probably, I don't know, like 6,000 miles apart. So you got to always be amazed by the fact that we can at least do this anyway. So again, Kevin Malecek, City of Mentor, just going to talk a little bit about trying to adapt the global mindset as you're looking at the U.S. marketplace. And the first reason really is as you're looking to, if you're a startup, if you're scaling up, why would you not want to look at the US and frankly also the Canadian marketplace? It's the largest economy in the world. It doesn't really matter what sector you're in. There's so many different types of opportunities here to break in, and what we present to you is really kind of that ability to work on a concierge type basis to allow you to get access to the markets, to get access to potential customers, maybe researchers. It really just depends on what your business is and what you'd like to do. But you can see what the GDP there in the North American market is. And we talk about the North American market, especially in our area. It's obviously United States, it's obviously Canada, it's obviously Mexico, but US and Canada in particular, because we are so close to Canada. We're only a 3-hour drive to the Canadian border. And the area that I'm from in particular is within 500 miles of 60% of both the U.S. and Canadian populations. So there's a lot of cross-border trade. Canada's a fantastic market as well. So you really have the access wherever you might go in the United States, especially come in our area, to also access the Canadian market. There's a great common culture and language and ties there. There's not obviously a lot of barriers in terms of how that goes. And the other reason to really look at the U.S. market is the time to get set up is very short. You can get a company registered here in a very short period of time. It can be less than a week to actually just formally get set up. Just so you have that U.S. entity doesn't mean you have to leave Scotland or wherever you might be set up, but it allows you to kind of have that access to the U.S. market, access programs that might be out there as you're looking to grow your business and expand your business in the United States. There's a lot of different strategies, though, you can look to do that. And I know everybody's got different types of companies. So if you're digital, it may not be as relevant for you as far as it goes. But there's direct exporting, indirect exporting. What we often try to do is work with companies to try to find them a partnership or an alliance with an existing company. Perhaps you have a product that you'd like to have manufactured here in the United States and doing some contract manufacturing work. That's something that you can kind of work on from that perspective. There's one thing you do need to think about, though, is several things, but there's a lot of different types of advisors that you might have in the U.S. You'd have potentially legal advisors. Those might be people that would help you get your company set up here in the United States. Provide kind of the avenues and the guidance for you to sit down. We work with several different types of attorneys here that can talk with you and kind of provide that very baseline legal advice before you get any fees or anything like that, just to kind of give you that general guidance that you would need to figure out, how do I set up my company? What are the things I need to think about? As you get a little bit more in depth, and you maybe start talking about hiring employees here, setting up an actual physical office here, whatever it would be, then you really want to start to think about some of the accounting that might be out there, some accounting firms that you might need to utilize to do things here, personnel, and also you might have a product that may need to be regulated. We work with a lot of healthcare companies. We're in a great healthcare ecosystem where I represent. And many of those products that might need to come to this market might face certain regulatory issues with potentially being a healthcare product, the Food and Drug Administration. If it's a medical device that might be invasive, maybe it's an implant that might go in your chest or something along those lines, there is some regulatory types of things that are out there. It just kind of depends on what the product you are. But that's what this comes down to. The entire approach to getting in the U.S. market or really any market, you really have to do your homework. You have to do your research. Preparation is really key in all of this. And that's why, you could be 3 or 4 years away from doing this, but at least getting right now, sitting down and thinking about a strategy of how will this work, maybe interacting with someone like me. And, we're happy to give as much advice as we can. We do that on a complimentary basis. we really want, to talk to people about, what strategy should I be thinking about? How should I be looking to approach the market and so forth? That's what you really kind of do in these situations, but you've got to do that homework. You don't want to just go in without a plan, without some type of organization, without making some appropriate contacts. You really need to think about every element of what you're doing before you access the US or any other type of foreign market. There's really some other factors to consider as well. You want to think about financing. It's going to cost money for you to set up in the United States. You might say, why? Part of the reason I want to look at the United States is because of the potential of investors. Yes, and that's a great thing to do. But even to get some of those investors, it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation almost. Some of those investors want to see you doing something in the United States before they would consider maybe a venture capital investment. We participate every year. There's another opportunity coming up in September in a conference called the State of Ohio Venture Capital Fest. And oftentimes company can sit down with those potential venture capital investors and talk about what strategies they might have as they look to approaching the market. Those investors aren't going to give you a check and let you walk out of there, but they at least will sit down with you and talk to you about what that looks like as you're looking to kind of put together your strategy. But it's really important. You're going to have some type of potential seed funding just to kind of get set up in the US. Maybe it's just to obviously, get that legal entity set up so then you could access grant funding, maybe depending on what your company does and the product that it produces, or if it's digital or what have you, it produces a great service. It's one of those things you've got to kind of look at that to determine, you've got to have that financing in place and what other access might be out there for it. You got to have contacts in the United States, and you think about where you might want to be and what's important to you. Maybe if there's a specific geography you need to be in for whatever product or service you're offering, what type of connections might be there for you. And that's something I'll talk about shortly, what we do here in my area and also in the state of Ohio in general, and what kind of attention you're going to get. Because oftentimes as a smaller company, there's a lot of states out there, they'll come talk to you. A lot of them want to see a certain threshold of, hey, you've got to have this many employees, you've got to have this type of growth, this type of profit margin, and so forth, before they'll even really talk to you. What we do here, and that's part of the reason that we came to Aberdeen, is we work with a lot of SMEs, people in the startup phase, people in the scale-up phase, to try to figure out how we best can offer market access to them and how we might be able to help them individually. That's one thing that we really try to do. And as we talk about this a little bit further and entertain some of your questions, that's something that I'm happy to organize one-on-one calls with any of you to talk a little bit more about what can happen. Even if you're a couple years off and you're just making some exploratory initiatives right now of looking at the market, that's one thing we can do, is provide a bit of that advice. I'm going to talk about the state of Ohio for a moment. The state of Ohio, Midwestern state, it's actually the 8th largest economy in the United States by states. The United States are almost like 50 different countries. But if it were to be on its own, as its own entity, as its own country, it would be the 21st largest economy in the world. There's a lot of things that happen here. Ohio's always been known as a manufacturing state, but it's gotten a lot more into tech. It's gotten a lot more into digital. You may have heard Intel has just made a major investment for their second largest U.S. factory here in the Columbus area, which is not far from where I am. And Intel has promised to integrate with companies all around the state and offer them opportunities to be a part of their investment in the state of Ohio. So this is an area that's centrally located, again, within 60% of 500 miles of 60% of the U.S. and Canadian populations. It's also a lot lower cost to do business in the state of Ohio, and that's one thing we like to talk about, and offering that individual attention that exists there as well. There's also a tremendous spirit of education and innovation that exists within the state of Ohio, and that's in a variety of different fields. We have over 200 institutions of higher learning all throughout the state. And those go from community colleges to four-year, maybe smaller liberal arts institutions, to institutions like Ohio State University, one of the largest institutions in the United States, higher educational institutions, and Case Western Reserve University, where we have very close relationships. We work with a lot of their professors. Again, if we have a healthcare related company, they have one of the top 30 medical schools in the United States. We can make connections with their faculty, with their researchers for companies that are looking to come in. There's so many different engineers and technicians that are being graduated from Ohio universities that are out there. We have all these global hubs. We have a NASA facility right down the street from us, about 30 minutes down the road, right next to our airports. We have a tremendous aerospace industry that exists here as well. There's a huge amount of public and private research and development spending, over $12 billion that exists there, and so many patents. This is a state of innovation. The Wright brothers, it goes back that far, over 100 years ago, when the Wright brothers flew their plane. They started, even though they flew the plane and tested it in North Carolina because they had to with where the beachhead was and how they needed the winds. They built that plane. They did what they needed to do. They started in the state of Ohio. We've had that spirit of innovation ever since then in so many different facets. And whatever economic area, whatever sector you might want to be in, this is an area that can really help you achieve your goals of U.S. market access. Talk a little bit about the area that I am from. Talked a little bit about where we were mileage-wise, kind of where we're located there. You can kind of see on the map, very centrally located between Detroit, about a 3-hour drive, 45-minute flight. New York City is only about an hour and 15-minute flight, 7-hour drive. Washington, D.C., an hour flight, 6-hour drive. Chicago, an hour flight, about a 5.5-hour drive. We are close to everything. And we have major infrastructure, interstates, railroads that go right through where we are. We have shipping opportunities, and there's so many different sectors. You can see them there: life sciences and healthcare, aerospace, advanced precision manufacturing, automotive supply chain. We can fit, and then also digital, because I know that's of interest potentially to a lot of you. We do work with a lot of digital companies that are out there. I'll pause for a minute. I know you guys are kind of looking at the screen. Is everything okay?
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. I just have a couple more slides and I'll be happy to open it up for questions. So again, the area that I'm from, we're a very large manufacturing center. We have 3,200 acres for manufacturing use. This is a view of where we are. We actually sit on a Great Lake. Tell people it is like an ocean. You can't see the other side in Canada. It's about 70 miles across. We have a beach. You can even see it there. We have 10 industrial parks, 213 industrial-oriented businesses, and a huge sales volume. We're a very large retail center besides what we offer within the different economic sectors that we have within our program. We do offer a lot of incentives, and the main one that we offer, again, is complimentary to any company that's looking to come into the U.S. market, and that is advice and the ability to connect you with people that might be able to help your business. We call it a concierge-based soft landing approach. And you might say, well, why is this guy here talking to all of us in Aberdeen from a city we've never heard of before? What does he care about all of us and our companies? Well, we do what we do to help anybody that's out there, with the hope that some of you may decide to say, hey, I might like to set up in the city of Mentor. There's no requirement to do that. We're happy to help and make a connection here and there, provide a bit of advice if we can, and so forth, and kind of help you with your U.S. journey. And the reason we do that is because we know some people will set up here. Not everybody will, and that's fine. But we want to present ourselves as kind of that little gateway that you have to the U.S. as you're looking to kind of set things up there, how we might be able to be helpful. We can't be helpful to everybody. We have a small bandwidth, but we'll at least talk to almost anybody and see what we might be able to do to kind of help you as you're looking at your U.S. journey. But we do also offer some financial incentive if people do set up in the city of Mentor. We have a small grant that can be offered over a period of 3 years. There's also statewide incentives that exist as well, especially if your company would experience very large explosive growth. And we have a lot of people that can talk to you that we've dealt with, both in the UK and in Ireland, about their business experiences with the city of Mentor, what we've been able to do for them if they make a visit over, phone calls that we have with them that hopefully would lead to a visit where we can make in-person introductions for them. That is one thing that we're very, very good at. And we've had a lot of record of success in that area. We have a formal partnership with MediLink Midlands, which is a healthcare med tech trade association based in the UK Midlands. We've had a couple of companies set up, one of which from the MediLink relationship, and very recently a digital company called Block Digital that does a lot of 3D animations and virtual reality work, particularly for manufacturers, but really for anybody. They offer just really innovative, cutting-edge animations out there. They made a visit to us just a little over a year ago, and they've already set up and have their office set up and have 5 employees and are looking to scale up from there. And we sat down with them and we made connections with about 6 or 8 companies, and about 3 of them have already signed up as clients with this company. That's the type of work that we can do. We try to make those connections on the ground, bring people into the ecosystem and say, okay, here's the bottom line as far as all this goes, looking at the US market. It doesn't really matter what state you set up in, because you can do business then in any of the states once you get here. There's very little barrier once you're set up in the state of Ohio, or the state of Nebraska, or the state of Massachusetts, or wherever you are. Once you get in, you can do business anywhere. It's not a problem. It comes down to who's going to be able to help you the most, who's going to be able to answer your questions, who's going to give you attention. And that is one thing that we try to do for SMEs, and that kind of distinguishes us from a lot of others that may not do that type of work that often. So that's the one thing that we really try to do on our end. I know I've kind of given you guys a lot of information here about us and just in general about the US market. And what I really want to do, I like to do in all these situations, especially virtually, is open it up for any questions. And if you're not ready to answer, because I know your seminar that you guys are having over today and tomorrow is just kind of getting started, and you may have questions that haven't formulated yet and so forth. I'm going to give you my email address and our website in the chat here. And Franklin's got my contact information as well. And then if you've want to do a follow-up call to ask some additional questions you don't want to ask in front of the group or something like that, more than happy to do that within the coming weeks as far as that goes. So with all that, I'll put that in the chat and be happy. I'll stop sharing my screen here and happy to entertain any questions that you all might have.
One clap for Kelvin.
No, thank you. I don't need applause.
Apologies for the technical stuff. Right?
Oh, no, that's no problem. I just, as long as everybody was able to hear what I had to say and get some sense of what I was trying to present, that's all that's important. And put my info in the chat here. There we go. I say, are there any questions? I don't, Franklin, if you've got any like general questions of anything I can offer to anybody, or happy to offer whatever input I can.
Yeah, just give me like 2 minutes.
Sure.
So please, can we ask questions? You say, but why are we in a small city of 250,000 people and thinking about the US? What I read 2 days ago is that whatever idea you have should not be about a local system, should be about a global stuff. So that's the reason why we're bringing, we didn't ask you to bring any idea, we really did that. Whatever, you just ask questions and all of that. And he has been about, I think he was here, you were here in the UK for how many weeks?
We were there for about a week and a half, and we travel all throughout. We did events in London. We have very sustained, significant relationships in the Midlands and Birmingham and Nottingham. So we did some things there, and then we made our way up to Scotland. So we've done some work with Codebase over the last couple of years with a couple of their companies. And so we were there quite a bit, and there's something we'll continue to do. I might be back also in the fall, potentially as well.
Yeah, thanks so much. So can I open to 2 questions? Please, let's ask questions. Anything that comes to your mind, whether how the US market works. I've been there. I think I was there 2 or 3 weeks ago. When at the pub, you guys can offer £10 million if I can, $10 million if you can build something. So please, okay, yeah.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Kevin. My question is around companies that are trying to get into the US in terms of seeking customers, because that is the primary thing. Do you guys help with business development, and can you signpost to open doors to speak to potential customers and just explore the prospect that companies outside of the US can then seize opportunities within the US? Thank you.
Yes, no, absolutely. Thank you for your question. We can and we do. And that's normally facilitated the best with an in-person visit. And it's not like, oh, you have to come to do that. But I will tell you, just trying to build those relationships and build that trust. Because what we'll often do when someone comes over, and we can organize itineraries for people to come over for 2 or 3 days. And what I will tell you is all we really ask for companies to do in terms of paying for it is to get yourselves over there, get yourselves over to Ohio, and we have reasonably priced accommodations. We take care of everything else on the ground, most meals, transportation, and the important thing that we do that other places and other firms might charge you for, we set up those meetings and we go to the meetings with you. So if we are calling on one of our companies, and they don't just have to be in Mentor, we'll talk to almost anybody in Northeast Ohio. We'll sit down with you and do a virtual call well before you would want to do something like that. We'll try to kind of glean from you, what types of companies you're looking for, what type of customers you're looking for, and then try to find those matches. And what we often tell companies to do is like, approach these companies by saying, look, I'm looking at the US market. I'm interested in what your company is looking to do, how we might be able to be helpful, and you giving me some feedback about whatever product or service we have. You approach things that way, that tends to lead to more customers down the line. You may not walk out of there with a signed contract for an order or what have you, but it's all about, we all know this, we're all in business. It's all about building the relationships. So we find if you can do that, we can break into that. It's just a matter of what sector you're in and how specific you can be with us when we have a conversation with you about what type of customer you're seeking. We'll then do some of the market research. We'll work on some of the phone calls and connections with people, and we'll try to do some of those virtually, but hopefully that eventually leads to actually coming over and sitting down and meeting with those potential people. That is something that we do and we offer with what we do in our program.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kelvin. Anybody? Any question? Okay, thank you so much, Kelvin. Thanks so much. We'll talk later. Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much. I'll get back to you actually. Thanks, and apologies for all the technical stuff.
Yeah, that's no problem at all. No, Frank, not a problem at all. And like I said, my email's in the chat. I know you know how to get a hold of me. Feel free to give it out to anybody. I'm happy to talk to anybody, and I'm happy to set up again a short call with anybody that might be interested after today's presentation.
Yeah. Can we give him a round of applause, please? So, bye. Thanks.
Have a great rest of the day.
Yeah, thanks.